Yes, I did it. Would you believe it? I built myself a palace, brick by brick, block by block, tile by tile. And there it is, my magnificent palace that now can host my ambitions, my ego, and my knowledge. Yes, it's work in progress, and it is a bit of a danger zone. And not because of this fresh paint and the scaffolding, the missing stairs, the floors that are not finished yet. There is something deeper, and that because between you and me, the materials that I use and my bricks are made of straw, sand, and bullshit, all baked together. And yes, because of that, bricks and blocks are very much uneven. They are light-weighted. They are brittles. And they smell of inconsistency throughout. And why is that inconsistency? Because with all my traveling and all my building, my ambition is getting battered. My ego is not the best side of me. And as for my knowledge, is very much like the bricks of my palace, because there is something missing, and what is missing is India. And it's not India's fault, because when I was around 12, 13, I had the chance to read a book written by a Nobel Prize laureate in literature by the name of Hermann Hesse, a German writer who wrote this book, Siddhartha. But in the story of this young man who leaves his village and his family in the search for himself, I totally missed the cultural background of India, where the book is based, and where the parents of Hermann Hesse were based. And so, when I was 15, 16, I went to see the movie Gandhi. And I was moved by the greatness of this man and his extraordinary achievements. But the movie was too political. And so I got caught up in the historical events that were triggered by the life and the decision of the Mahatma Gandhi. And so once again, I missed India. And then in my early 20s at the university, I had a friend that was obsessed with anything Indian related to Buddhism, and he gifted me a book titled Autobiography of a Yogi by the yogi himself, by the name of Yogananda. And this is an extraordinary story of Yogananda himself, how he became a yogi from a child till the very end of the book, when his life ends, in him in supreme control. And the book was beautiful and it was touching, but it felt to me that it was the life of somebody that was already destined to become a yogi. And so once again, I didn't pick up the call of India. And all of that was lost for 30 years. And so forget about it. Enjoy me instead in these days in Sydney, where I've been living for around 10 years. And like the Sydney native will forgive me for my usual sin of oversimplification. But basically, Sydney is just a large village with 4.5 million people distributed across a relatively large territory. And so you have what here they call the CBD, the commercial district, that is basically the city and the financial hubs. Then you have the eastern suburbs by the sea, where the affluent Jewish people establish themselves. You have the northern shores, past the harbour bridge on the other side of the harbour. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And then you have some trendy suburbs in what are known as the inner city, where you have Paddington and Surrey Hills and Alexandria. And one of these so-called trendy suburbs is called Newtown, a busy and bustling suburbs with a high street full of international students, Chinese, Vietnamese, all sort of characters, hippie in the 50s that are stuck like it was like California in the 70s, drunk people, but also actor, full of character from the LGBTQ community, and some lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgenders, queers, you name it, they all wandering around Newtown. And in Newtown you have scruffy bottle shop, charity shop, junk shops, but also you have like small independent cafe, small independent restaurants of dubious quality that they have been there for years, God knows mysteriously how. And it's probably of these trendy suburbs is what is the most shabby chic. And if you ask me, there is a lot of shabbiness and very little chic. But it is popular because the back streets are instead full and crammed with properties built in the 19th century, 1818, 1817, all crammed next to each other with a little bit of leaves, a little micro garden in front, a little gate, and on the back you might have different size of backyard with trees. It's charming. It's absolutely charming. But it's not my thing. And what can I say? But I'm an explorer. And so a few years ago, I was wandering around Newtown. And I made what appeared to be a bit of a mistake. I went inside for some mysterious reason, inside one of these junk shops, to see if there was something interesting and to see if it was very much all crap. Candles, crystals, rocks, necklaces made of I don't know what wood, you name it, pottery that was like cracked and it wasn't valuable even when it was originally gifted there. But as I walked in, within few steps, I realized that there was just junk. So I quickly turned around. But in turning around, I hit a pile of scruffy books that were on the side. And the pile itself collapsed. And as the piles collapsed, one book fell over. And, you have to understand, I have the coordination of a sloth. And yet this book that was falling on the floor, I was able to grab it before it fell on the floor. And when I look at this book, the book was the Bhagavad Gita. And the subtitle of the book was The Song of God. And I realized there and then, how can I, if it seems that this book fell into my arms, that the whole Newtown bent space and time to get me inside that shop, and the book fell and I grabbed it. So I went to the till when it was this hippie in his 60s, probably still trying to recover from his last acid experience. And I say I'll take this one. It was $2. And that hit me. I say how can a book be $2? You know? And I walk out. I had enough of Newtown. I took my bus back. And as I sat on the bus, I opened this book. I skipped the preface, I skipped the notations. I went straight to the first page. And it was like a stream of light hit me. How is it possible that I missed the existence of such a book, written probably 3,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago? A tiny little book, a book that is so dense, and a book that talked to me the way it talked to millions and millions of people through his existence. And the book starts with the main two characters. One is a warrior defending the rights of his family, but in doing that also defending justice itself. And the other one is God himself. And so these two characters, where the warrior goes by the name of Arjuna and the god goes by the name of Krishna, they are there. They are ready to battle, where Krishna is the charioteer from Arjuna. But as the battle is getting ready to start, Arjuna doesn't want to fight anymore. And so, in the middle of the two opposing armies, Arjuna drops his bow and arch and arrows and asks advice to Krishna, asking him why should he fight. And so the book, of course, is part of a much bigger saga, an extraordinary saga that goes back thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And this is the culmination of that saga, when the battle between good and evil has to take place. Except that is also the story of one family. And on the opposite side, you have two families. You have a father that is long dead, and you have an uncle that is blind, physically blind, but also blinded for the love of his son, that is fighting his own cousin, Arjuna. And so, as the opposing armies are facing each other, waiting to engage in battle, Arjuna recognizes that family is family, and that for every brother and for every cousin and for every uncle and from every loyal servant and from every moral warrior who sided with him, the same is true about the opposing army that is set to crush and to defeat. And that is his destiny. But within that destiny, Arjuna asks the Supreme Krishna, why is that destiny? Can that destiny be avoided? And so, in the discussion that follows, in this dialogue between the warriors of the warriors and the God of the gods, you are beautifully dragged into a reality that, yes, is philosophical, and yet is very practical. Is you against the expectation of your families, and you against the obstacles that in their own eyes are rightly put in place, preventing you from achieve your own destiny. And both statements are crushing whilst being correct. And the truth is not in one statement opposing to the other one, but is in the union of both of them. Both of them represent the absolute truth. But there is the struggle. And there is, of course, society. And within society, there are the people that pledge alliance and loyalty to the party that is perceived as the stronger. And so, who wouldn't side with who is the strongest? And if you don't want to side with the weakest, well, you can still be neutral and join in at a later stage, or say at the end of the battle, I didn't want to take part. But the battle is within you. And so avoiding the battle would mean betraying those brothers, betraying that mother, betraying those uncles, betraying those people that for love and for duty and for an authentic sense of justice sided with you, and you are the champion. This book of just few hundred pages is so intense, so deep, and India was all over in this book. And I couldn't escape the sophistication of their reasoning. And you find yourself, well, like the depth of the discussion is both spiritual and pragmatic. The battle is real, the struggle is real, and is real for me like it was real for Arjuna. Is real in relation to my palace made of shitty bricks and brittle blocks and cracked tiles. And my ambitions, they don't deserve to be fought for, and my ego should be crushed, not encouraged, and my knowledge should be recognized for lack of rather than for something that I have. And you have all this in a book, and this book had such a profound impact on me that wherever I went overseas, you bring a book to read, that's the book I brought. And as I move from house to house, I have to pack, put stuff away, and you have to decide, what do you want to have available. This is the book that never went into the box, not only not in storage, but in any other box, sealed or unsealed. Yes, I am on the move. I'm going to my new apartment, and I've been here living like a nomad. But this book cannot be put away because the struggle is real. And this book, and you can see how light it is. It's all, the pages are falling apart. This is the original book that I found. This book have to stay with me because it's not a light book. This book is everything me and you and anybody possibly need to get a grip with the reality that is your own self in the middle of a battle that hasn't started yet, and where both armies, your own and the opposing one, are waiting for your signal for the battle to start. They are waiting for you to shoot the first arrow and let the blood being released. And there is pain, because for every soldier that is gonna be killed, there is a mother, there is a brother, there is a father, there is a younger sister, there is an older brother, there is a bride, and they might be children, and children that might never be born. So all of those things. So for every individual who is part of that army, there are hundreds of people that will rely on their fortune to turn and twist on the basis of the fortune. They will turn and twist for the soldiers. And so how can we possibly go to battle? How can we possibly become the slayer of our own family? And if you're doing for family, how can you let down part of the family? But you have already tried every possible avenue to find an amicable solution. A solution that might not be fair, but it would nevertheless avoid the bloodbath. But there is no interest. The battle has to happen, and you are the commanding officer, the head of that army. And so the army is you. The family is your own family. And there is society. But there is also a justice that is universal. Because as you read the book, you see where justice falls. So if you, as a reader, have to take a position, you'll have to side with Arjuna. But on the opposing side, there is some sort of justification that, like, things went that way. And now, why should we give back the kingdom? Now we are the ruler of the kingdom. What happened in the past happened. And so we are not giving it back. This is mine. I got it from my father. I do it for my father. That's the argument of Arjuna's cousin that is fighting him. And the half-brothers side with one and with the other for their own reason. Well, you treated me like a bastard. Why should I side with you today? But I didn't know you were my half-brother. Yeah, but you know why you didn't know? Because your father made a mistake. And so why should I now helping you to win the battle, to sort of forgive our fathers? No, I go against you. This book is what I invite each one of you to discover or rediscover. Because every time I open this book and I go through this book, it feels like it's a brand new book. I never read this book before. Is the story, is the battle will happen. But there is no battle in the book. The battle is what will begin once Krishna convinced Arjuna that fighting is the right things to do. And so what is fighting is action. And if there is no action, make sure that that non-action is part of your own action. And he talks about yoga. And yes, there is yoga of enlightenment, but there is also a yoga of duty that stands below. And there is also a yoga of devotion that stands further below. And so how can you be yourself in this cataclysmic battle that you could hypothetically still avoid withdrawing and betraying all the people that trusted you until then? And the very idea that winning that battle would stop the reincarnation and karma. Your whole life through all the cycle would then be completed. Meaning, all battles cannot be avoided. They can only be postponed. And so if you have to go to battle, you want to go to battle when your army is assembled. And if in order to assemble your army, your enemies were able to see that you are assembling your army, and they also buffed up them and got the best men on their side, that doesn't matter. If the chance of winning is 50-50 or 40-40, or even if you are the underdog, even if you had given zero chance of succeeding because the opposing forces are way too great, that battle will present itself over and over and over again in the many cycles or in the many lives, according to the traditional Hinduism and Buddhism and Indian philosophy. And so this is the story. I don't even need to tell you to like me or to subscribe. I just have to invite you to find this book, read this book, and you will thank me. Something that I can't do because nobody gave me this book. This book came to me with everything that it represents. So the only way for me to thank the cosmos for the opportunity of going through this book is to share it with you and inviting you